Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today, we will dive into a very exciting topic, onboarding transformed, how Arise optimizes frontline learning for performance and retention. This session is eligible for HRCI, SHRM, and ATD professional development credits. I want to give a big thank you to today's webinar sponsor, Centrical. Centrical, the AI performance experience platform, empowers best-in-class customer experiences for the world's leading brands by building highly engaged and productive frontline teams. The platform personalizes the employee experience, guiding individual success and growth through AI-driven performance, coaching and quality management, personalized microlearning, and voice of the employee, all wrapped in industry-leading gamification to make the experience both fun and rewarding. For those of you who aren't familiar with Brennan Hall Group, we are a leading research and analyst firm with a global reach of over 10,000 clients and over 30 years of experience. We provide research-based solutions that drive organizational excellence through innovative tools and insights. Our vision is to inspire a better workplace experience, and our mission is to empower organizations around the world through our research and tools each and every day. Here's a sample of our clients. Our impact extends to over 10 million employees and executives through our comprehensive research library, strategic insights, and prestigious awards program. We also invite you, as always, to participate in our research studies. Links will be available in your handout, or you can always visit brennanhall.com. Once the results are analyzed, all participants receive a piece of complimentary research and other exclusive benefits. If you want to learn more about our Excellence Awards, please visit excellenceawards.brennanhall.com. Brennan Hall Group Institute is the top research and insights institute serving learning, talent, and HR leaders worldwide. For over 3 decades, we've shaped the future of human capital management by providing essential research, certification, and recognition to organizations committed to excellence. We are excited to share that at the end of today's webinar, we will be selecting one lucky raffle winner to win a free Excellence in Action program submission. Stay tuned to see if you are the lucky winner. You must be present to win. Now, just a few quick things to note. If you have any questions during the webinar, please use the questions panel on your control bar. We'll be answering them throughout the session. We're also recording today's webinar, and you'll receive an email within 24 hours with a link to the recording and a PDF of the slides. The chat box is open, so feel free to share your thoughts as we go along. Your input makes this more valuable for everyone. Now let's meet today's speakers. First, we have Sonia Brant, VP of Service Partner Experience at Arise. We have Will Perico, Senior Customer Success Manager at Centrical. And we have Claude Werder, SVP and Principal Analyst at Brennan Hall Group. Now, I would like to pass things off to Claude.
Well, thank you, Ivy, and welcome everyone. We're really happy to have everybody with us. And feel free to say hi in the chat and to let us know where you're calling in from. We're going to have a jam-packed session for you today. Our agenda is I will start with giving you some data and insights from our frontline learning research. We really want to involve you at the beginning, so we've got a couple of poll questions to see where you are in your journey. And then we'll really delve into Arise's wonderful experience and their journey and how they've succeeded in frontline onboarding and learning, and then get some success stories from other industries from Will. We'll save some time for Q&A at the end, but also we may answer some questions or address some comments as we go. So feel free to submit questions anytime as we go along. So let's start out with a little research. I've been doing this a long time now, and it's amazing to me how the priorities for learning and development and onboarding has changed over the years. Before 2020, onboarding and training for frontline workers really were toward the bottom of the L&D priority list, and now it's very much at the top. The Brennan Hall Group research data you're seeing here tells a really powerful story, I think, about where organizations are placing their strategic bets now. If you look at the 87% figure, that's percentage of companies prioritizing personalized and adaptive onboarding specifically for frontline employees. So we're witnessing, I think, over the last couple of years, a fundamental shift in how businesses view their frontline workforce. So it's not just about training anymore. It's really about getting a competitive advantage. Notice that 89% are leveraging AI to support upskilling. This intersection of personalization and AI is kind of where the magic happens now for frontline workers. Gives them opportunities that didn't exist before. They need to be productive quickly. They can't afford lengthy one-size-fits-all training programs, and technology allows it to happen. And it's so important, right? Because when you're dealing with high volume hiring in retail, hospitality, customer service, manufacturing, whatever industry you're in, every day of faster proficiency translates directly to better customer experiences and reduce turnover costs. So we want to see where you are right now, especially in this question about frontline onboarding. Please indicate which onboarding challenges your organization faces in 2025 with frontline workers. You can select any of these, all that apply. Is it high attrition during onboarding or after onboarding, inconsistent performance after training, lengthy time to proficiency, difficulty measuring training effectiveness, scaling training across multiple locations? And we're getting some good input. And just as we kind of thought, it's kind of a mixed bag. And basically everyone to some degree is having these challenges. Right now, it looks like the top response is high attrition after onboarding, and we'll address some of that, followed relatively closely by inconsistent performance after training. And you can see that really everybody is dealing with this to one degree or another. So there's a lot to overcome and a lot that technology can do and new approaches can do to help this. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, Ivy, we'll go ahead and move on. So these are the top learning priorities for 2025. This is from our 2025 Outlook research. And the top priority is improving learner experience. So 61% of organizations told us that. This isn't just about making training more pleasant now, right? For frontline workers, not to get too melodramatic about it, but it's really about survival. These employees often juggle multiple responsibilities. They work irregular schedules, and they need training that fits into their workflow, not disrupt it. Second priority here, providing skills practice, is particularly critical for frontline roles, whether you're training a new bank teller or a customer service agent, restaurant server, or a technician in a factory. There is a huge difference between knowing something theoretically, being able to execute that under pressure with real customers or in real operational situations. And that's what scores of companies tell us in our research. So technology is the great enabler here, and that's really the key. And many organizations don't necessarily have the right technology tools to excel in practical onboarding and training of frontline staff. In fact, we kind of want to ask you again where you are in this situation. So here's another poll question, and we want to know currently what type of technologies are you using to personalize frontline learning? So you can, again, select all that apply. Is it AI-driven learning platforms, simulation or scenario-based training, which we're going to talk a lot about today, video-based microlearning, virtual reality, only a traditional LMS, or maybe none of the above. You're not able to use any of them. So we're getting questions in, or answers in rather. Right now, the leading technology is video-based microlearning, followed by scenario-based training. So I think we've got enough, Ivy, if you want to share the results. So yeah, the top answer with 58% is video-based learning, followed by scenario-based training. And thankfully, everyone is using some sort of technology, even if it's only the traditional LMS at this point, which is tied for second with simulation scenario-based training. Okay, just a couple more slides for me, and then we're going to move on to some success stories. So here are the top challenges for effective learning priorities for 2025. You can take a look at what the top challenges are, and these reveal exactly why the traditional training approaches often fail frontline workers. The top challenge, identifying skill gaps, is amplified in frontline roles because performance issues directly impact customer experience or operational efficiency. But look at the second challenge. 42% cite lack of opportunity to practice skills in a safe environment. This is where modern technology really becomes essential. The frontline workers, they just can't afford to learn on the job with real customers, obviously, right? And so they need that realistic simulation and practice. And several years ago, that wasn't really something that could be done easily. Now technology allows us to do more. And so this is really important to address that. So here, and I'm just going to go over these real quickly. Here are some key insights from our frontline development studies. These come from more than 50 Brandon Hall Group Excellence Award case studies on frontline learning. And these are the key takeaways. It all starts with getting executive support at the top. And then that technology piece that I've been talking about is super important. Blended learning approaches yield the best results. The skills practice is critical. If you can do coaching and mentoring of frontline employees to supplement other types of training, really important. You obviously have to measure beyond satisfaction so you can show the impact and get continued support and show ROI for your efforts. The content has to be balanced. And then obviously everything needs to be aligned with business objectives. But if you can get the right technology, if you can make some of the strategic adjustments that you may need to make, the metrics and about the impact is pretty striking. Here are just a few from our research. One company, obviously a pretty large company, was able to train 15,000 frontline workers within 4 months. Before they had the right technology, it took them close to 2 years. And of course, they have a lot of turnover and a lot of issues while they're trying to do all that. 7% reduction in frontline turnover might not sound like a lot, but it's huge in terms of the continuity and the ability of workers to do their jobs well and to continue to grow with the organization. And then I also highlighted 80% of nearly 1,600 program participants in one company remained with that company for over a year. So that's huge for frontline workers. This is kind of the kind of impact that you can get when you do this right. So now I'm going to turn it over to Sonia. It's great to talk about data and everything, but she and Will are going to bring things to life here for you and talk about how they've managed their journey. Sonia, all yours.
Thank you, Claude. Hey, everybody. Sonia Brant, VP of Learning Design from the wonderful company of Arise. We can go to the next slide. So before I tell you what we do in learning, I first got to tell you how we are different and who we are. And so we are a gig company. And what we offer in the marketplace is an opportunity for contractors, independent contractors to start a business and to work to service remotely. We offer that in a part-time model. And what we're able to do is beyond amazing because in the worlds pre-COVID, I would say most of the call types, transactions, and things like that was a mix between simple and complex. Now, what we're seeing from a AI perspective, as companies start using AI or start shifting some of their simpler transactions through a different process, for us, we're getting more complex type situations or complex contracts. But the difference with the RISE versus your traditional BPO, it is based on a contract model. We offer the technology and platform for people to come and start a business and to do service for us. We've been in this business for over 20 years, and that is the uniqueness about our particular model here at Arise. And if you have any questions, just again, drop them in chat and we'll go forward from there. Next slide. And so Arise operates in many different countries, and those are the countries on the slide there. And again, what's unique about us, again, we have 100,000 plus users that engage on our platform. And they represent several different communities, demographics on that end. So in a traditional BPO where you have a site in a particular community, that site has the ability to recruit, let's just say, from folks within that community. With our model being completely virtual, work at home, and technology based, we have the ability to source from different countries, from different demographics on that end. So that is what makes us so unique in this space. So well over 100,000 folks, over 500 clients that we actually do business with on our platform. Next slide. And so this is all of the industries are listed on the left there of all the different things that we do. Most people see gig as very simple work, but we are, like I've mentioned before, very complex. And because we are in the gig marketplace and because we offer a technology platform, everything that we do, first of all, centers around having the right technology in place and then the right people process. So looking at our entire infrastructure and all of the different things that we offer as a company starts with all the different technology. But our value proposition, if you didn't get it before, is flexibility. Folks do business with Arise because of flexibility, not just flexibility from an agent perspective, a business owner perspective, but flexibility because we're trying to solve a particular situation for a client. You know, our clients say, hey, we don't want a full-time workforce. We only have an issue, 2 days a week. How can you help us? And that's where, Arise actually shines in that space. And so if you look at all the different technology tools that we use to kind of make this engine go, it is represented on that particular slide. So I'm happy to represent Arise today. Just some of our stats, 72% of the folks who do business with us are minority-owned businesses. 54% of them have a college degree or a master's degree. 50% of them are homeowners, 67% of them are female. And the industries, there's not any industry that we're not participating in from a learning space, from a client space on that end. So that is Arise. All right. So now that I've told you about Arise and you know that, our value proposition is definitely flexibility and offering a technology-based platform to allow folks to come on to our platform to start a business and a service for many Fortune 500 clients. The uniqueness, although our value proposition is flexibility, the challenge for us is to make sure that although it is a part-time model, that we still hit our proficiency in the manner that you would expect in a full-time model. And so you're like, how do you do that? Well, we have a very comprehensive digital learning drive journey that is really geared towards how do we achieve speed to proficiency at the end. We can't go to our clients and say, okay, because we're part-time, we should get 3 times the amount of time to hit proficiency. No, proficiency is proficiency. If it needs to happen within 30 days, 1 week, that's our driving force. And so as we start thinking about how we do that, it first starts with discovery. What are we ultimately trying to accomplish at the end of that journey? So working backwards, what are we trying to accomplish? Is it AHT? Is it customer sentiment? Is it, what are those particular things and how do we get there? And so in that process, we're working specifically with our clients and understanding all the different learning styles of how to kind of pull that together. So I lead a very wonderful team who is more knowledgeable than I am, that are out there kind of making it happen and really going through a very comprehensive discovery process of saying, ultimately, what are we trying to achieve? And then they build from there. So they create the foundation and they build the kind of the outcome from there. And so in the end of the day, the design is top of mind because now we're thinking about all the different learning styles. As I mentioned in the slide before, the uniqueness of the folks that are engaged in our model, the folks with college degrees, homeowners, minority business owners. So taking all of that into account of not just what you're trying to accomplish in the end, but the different expectations that people bring with them and putting that design element within how we develop those courses. And then, of course, I cannot leave out, our LMS, award-winning LMS Centrical, and how we're using that to kind of infuse the curriculum. So from the design aspect, from the learner aspect, now we're bringing in the uniqueness of a very very advanced LMS system that is focused on the entire experience. But again, we can't do it just with technology. People are still a value and important part of our success formula where we bring in our instructors. At Arise, we have well over 400 instructors. And in our
Wow.
instructor community, they actually have a tenure base of over 10 years. And so the instructor community that we have is now part of that process of now delivering and facilitating in a manner that is approaching all of the learning styles. Claude, you had a question?
Yeah, as I look at the slide as you're talking, the 65% faster course development time really sticks out to me. And I'm just wondering, with your group of learning professionals, what specific processes have been most effective in achieving that kind of efficiency?
Well, it's definitely taking out the fat. I think when you're in a brick and mortar kind of situation and it's instructor led, there's a lot of role plays, a lot of things that are done that is human kind of related. And so we use the technology base to say, okay, instead of the entire class going through a very long role playing session, how can we use technology to make sure everyone's getting that same experience? So it is basically looking at what's the end result. Are we instructing every single thing that someone needs to know with the likelihood that only 10% of the time or less they're going to get that call type? And can we do that differently? So it's definitely looking at the fat and looking at what we're trying to accomplish in the end. We have I mentioned 400 instructors. We have a army of course design folks that have an array of technology that they use. But again, in that discovery, it is what are we trying to accomplish, what needs to be there, and building on that end and finding other ways to deal with the things that are less likely to happen.
And you're dealing with a lot of different audiences too. So you really have to, I would think you really have to know your audiences and how things need to be different for different audiences.
Absolutely. I mean, the uniqueness of Arise is the different types of folks that are coming in to do business with us, makes us like we got to be on our toes. It can't be a one-stop shop, a one formula. We got to bring in each and every learning style, but use technology and people to supplement that.
Great. Want to move on now?
Yes, simulations. I know everyone's mentioned. I think you move. Can you go
Oop,
back?
sure. There you go.
All right, so new to us over the past year, we've brought in simulations into the world of learning using both the AI simulations that are within our LMS system as well as other tools. I, I mentioned earlier the clients that we deal with, Fortune 500 clients. Some of those clients are healthcare clients. Some of those clients are clients where mistakes can't happen. They could be critical to someone's health or other issues. So putting someone in an environment where they've not been tested, where they've not had the ability to actually prove that they can do this without mistakes is critical to our success. And so over the past year, we've launched simulations and have seen some really good success over that. We'll talk about it later in a couple slides. The gamification part of it has been unique for us as well. We use gamification to kind of dictate what happens in the learning environment as far as, tokens and things like that. But also we use it to reward performance as it relates to selecting schedules, post-learning, and things like that. But with all of that, the next key piece of us for what we do is actually to support. Again, humans have to be involved in the process. After you've invested the time, the effort, the technology into getting people to the place they need to for learning, now it's time to support them. Now it's time to make sure that they feel completely supported. And so we have a very advanced support structure and technology that we use there to make sure people feel supported. And then there's the analytics part. No class, no goes without, hey, are we hitting the mark? Are we seeing what we need to see throughout the process from a learning journey, from proficiency, and where is it that we can quickly pivot? And the last piece of it is performance-based content. We'll get into that on the next slide.
Okay.
And so, Claude, when you were talking earlier about some of the things that are like now in the learning environment to improve the learner experience, to provide skills practice, to give an opportunity for people to apply their learning skills in a very realistic job scenario. All of that is true. All of that is true. And what we've been able to do over and above that with the help of Centrical and their LMS is to actually create personalized learning paths for folks who come in and say, okay, what's my performance looking like? We're able to, with the help of Centrical's tool, push performance level metrics to the agents and basically set up targets to say, okay, if the most important targets for you to achieve is AHT, quality, and other things, we're actually ingesting that information. If someone is not hitting those targets, we've kind of activated some AI technology to say, okay, the reason why they're not hitting this particular target actually has to do with this behavioral issue or content. And then we push that content to those agents so that they can then focus themselves on making the necessary improvement. That has been a game changer. We call it Boost, and it's dynamically assigned to the agents based on where they're at for their performance. And it gives them more say and more in their own performance and actually gives them an opportunity to kind of move to the next level. That was game changer number one for us last year with the help of the Centrical application, where we saw significant improvement in people's ability to impact their own performance and not 30 days later, not a week later, a day later.
Wow.
So that has really helped. And again, it puts the content, it puts the performance back in the hands of the learner.
Now, I know the Centrical LMS uses gamification, and I'm wondering how that approach has impacted contractor engagement, compared to what a traditional training system would do.
We're a little limited in that perspective. Like we don't give out dollars and cents and prizes and things like that. Our gamification is simply, where you're at on the leaderboard. And we use that as well to kind of give you a leg up on selecting your schedule. So if your performance is top notch, you're going to be considered a gold person, and then you can get first dibs at selecting a schedule. So we use gamification more in a recognition perspective, but to also give you what's most important to folks is, hey, can I get to my hours sooner rather than later? So we don't use it for rewards in the tangible perspective, but from a performance perspective, we do. Will, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think it's super well explained, Sonia. The only thing I would add is the fact that customers that cannot leverage extrinsic motivation like the virtual store, we still have capabilities from an intrinsic motivation perspective, such as recognition through leaderboards, badges, and we are in the process of adopting more and more through Arise to make the platform as engaging as possible. That would be my only addition, but
Yeah.
thank you.
All right, we can go to the next slide.
Okay.
All right.
Simulations.
Simulations. So there are so many levels of simulations and different, I would say we're probably at the more advanced level of simulations now. Um, when we talk to other folks in the learning community, they're probably at the beginning level because you can tier it. So between the LMS system, but Centrical AI simulation and another tool that we use, we've been able to kind of tier it, so to speak, where we have different levels. So we are, I would say, expert at simulations right now in creating an environment that folks can actually simulate. So the versions that we use is that the phase one of a simulation is typically, I'm going to guide you through the actual transaction, let's just say. And the what's unique about our simulations is that you're simulating not just a keyboard, but we're simulating voice as well. So the agent is able to speak and type in a real life, well, a situational thing that we've created, and they receive scores throughout the process of how well they did, and they have to achieve a minimum score to go on to the next level. So again, like tier number one could be, hey, we're going to coach you through this simulation because we want to make sure that we reward folks and have them have a positive experience. Then the middle tier, you're getting less feedback from the tool. The last simulation on that, you are getting no feedback. You got to completely do it on your own. And I think that builds learners' confidence
Yeah, absolutely.
on that end. So this is just one of our samples of, you know, when we look at simulations and we look at the folks who participated at a high level versus people who just did the minimum and what we actually saw. So we actually saw that, looking at a scoring perspective and their ability to be ready, their readiness level was at a much higher. They didn't feel that stress of, oh, I don't know if I can do it. I don't want to make a mistake. So we saw that, as people do more simulations, the stress levels went down, right? They were more ready to take calls in order to do whatever transactions they needed to do. So they were looking at a higher level of call rate and a lower handle time and greater quality performance. So the more you practice, the more you did on your own, kind of tuck away some of that stress that we typically see when folks go through the learning. And that's like one of the bigger exit points, right? We got them to stay, we got them to stick through learning. They did really well in class. They achieved all the things they needed to achieve. Now it's time to go out into the real world and do it. And we all know from the learning environment, oh my God, they left, they escaped, they stressed out, or they got to a point where the anxiety levels were so high. Simulations kind of takes that away. The anxiety level kind of goes away because I've already practiced. I've already got my scores. I've already proven I can do it. So when it's time to talk to that real customer or be in that real life situation, I'm ready. And being ready, being confident has turned into better proficiency and stickiness on the agent side.
One of the questions I get all the time when I'm trying to push companies to use simulations is, okay, what's really the impact? In other words, how quickly did you see the improvements in the performance be realized in real life after the use of these simulations?
Almost immediate. So the first thing that we look at, that pattern I mentioned of once folks get through. So we're using simulations not just in the learning environment. So we started seeing less and less people leave the learning space. So now you got greater retention because they feel more prepared. And then that again, that next step of after learning is finished, so you delivered more people to production and the stickiness was there, which saves money, right? In the end, because now you're not having to bring more people in. Their performance almost immediate. So when we look at and we compare performance of folks who had not done simulations, the drop rate was definitely higher. The handle time, the AHT, whatever transaction we were tracking to, we saw that it was definitely ours. So if you look at these two comparisons, the one who had no or low simulations, actually 12% of them took less, I mean, they took less calls versus the other group that took more calls. And so the stickiness was there. So we're
Yeah.
talking about immediate results. Now, I'm not going to say that simulations don't take time. It takes time to build. And you have to build it in a way where it's flexible on that end. So I think the biggest amount of time that we would say that goes into this process is the build process. But once you got your build process down and you got your storyboard and all those things that it takes to create a simulation, it actually starts going really fast. So I'm thankful that the executive team at Arise, we have full support in the investments it takes to kind of make whatever technology requests we need to make our learning journey even more successful. It starts there. It starts there.
Okay, we ready to move on?
Yes.
Just encouraging people, if you have any questions, we can handle them as we go, or we can handle them at the end, but feel free to just weigh in at any time. Go ahead.
So this is another case study that we did, and what we were looking at is folks who were going through the learning process was having issues with quality and missing some key areas from a quality perspective that could lead to a customer issue later. And so in doing so, we said, okay, how do we fix that? And so we started with simulations. And the simulations was based on trying to fix some quality issues that were centered around documentation, scripting, and customer service. And if you look at the different categories, we saw a decrease in folks who were missing key documentation, a 52% decrease in closed loop scripting, which basically we all know, let's just make sure that the customer feels like everything's handled before they exit that call. A 17% decrease in missing excellent customer service. Customer service is critical for any business because that's going to be how customers repeat customers, right? So retention of customers and an overall increase in quality. And this was just our first level simulations. This ultimately, we weren't trying to increase the cert rate. And what's what we call the number of people ready to go to production. We were simply focused on how do we make this quality better? How do we make retention better from a customer perspective for our client? Because that's why they're in the business in the end of the day.
Right.
Not only did we see that from a quality perspective, we saw people stick around 26%. So the byproduct of I feel confident, I feel like I know, I feel like I can do this, and I'm proving I could do it, resulted in 26%, what brick and mortar would call graduation rate increased by 26%.
Wow.
So that's mind blowing for me. But yeah, it says we're on the right track, and we're
Absolutely.
we're accomplishing all the things that you mentioned earlier with the skills practice.
Want me to move on?
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
So again, we go back and we not just look at, okay, yes, we talked about what happened as soon as our learners finished certification, but what happens after 30 days? Do we continue to see better performance? And we are seeing that, hey, if you look at the purple side, this is where the AHT was before simulations, right? And so we start seeing that it is getting better. They keep, making improvements at a much faster level than what we've seen before. And so that says to us, okay, how do we move more of the simulations outside of just learning, but also in the world of production? And so that's where we're going with simulations now. It's to keep capitalizing on that and to keep building on from basic to more complex and to bring that into our everyday world. from a simulations perspective, but 25% decrease in handle time. And for those folks who, that means we've just saved some money there. And we've just, money associated with having additional head count because your AHT's gone down. You can get to customers sooner. So, from a learning perspective, the investment in technology, yes, the cost is high, but look at the dollars you save throughout the learning journey is giving better performance, better stickiness. Why not? Right? So again, I think Arise is at the forefront of all the things that we're doing, and it's critical for us to be successful in a learning space because of our model. And so again, thankful that our executive team understands that and kind of says, do what you got to do to make it happen, because in the end of the day, we're measured by the retention of our folks and how proficient they are in the levels that our clients need us to be.
Great. I I have some folks that I talk to that are still skeptical about simulations, and they say, "Well, yeah, but they're effective, but how long does it take?" What would you say is the minimum effective dose, so to speak, of simulations? The amount
Of
of
how
time
long?
people of how long until you see some meaningful results?
I think you first got to start off with the right problem statement, and understand what are you really trying to accomplish. Don't start the simulation just jumping in. What is the problem statement? Is the problem
Right.
statement, your handle time is the problem statement, your quality, define it first, right? And then work to accomplish that problem statement and then measure it to determine that I would say the first time we did it, no, we didn't get it right. But then we kind of understood, okay, tweaking it and on that end. So I think starting there first, and then getting the flow right. We've perfected the time it takes to kind of pull down all the different things you need to make that simulation happen faster and sooner. And we're doing right now in our world, we're creating at least 8 simulations a week for the
Wow.
clients that we have on our platform, because we've gotten the pace to the perfect place for us.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We're going to move on and go to Will to drill into some case studies from different industries. So, Will, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Claude. And before even getting into other case studies, I want to take a moment to say how myself, being the designated customer success manager to Arise, and Centrical as an organization, we're extremely proud of everything that Arise has been doing. It's a noble cause. It's an incredible organization. And to see the level of transformation that we have been able to drive together is really something that makes us all proud. So thank you, Sonia. Thank you, your team as well, for all the effort and collaboration. So we are going to look into 3 different case studies that we have gathered across other industries, right? We understand that gig economy and how Arise operates is slightly different than most organizations, but we also face challenges elsewhere. And not all companies, even though they might have an employment model, they also struggle with different levels and layers of business complexity. So one thing to note is that, Centrical, we are an employee management platform, and we also have a gamification layer to our platform, which is not to say that people are going to the platform to play games, but essentially gamification means that we're bringing elements that typical games would have, like leveling up and so on, that builds intrinsic motivation. It's those elements that makes people want to come back to the platform and learn more and do better without even realizing why. So the examples that we're going to go over here, again, they span across other industries, and they focus on very specific challenges that some of these companies have faced. The first of which is in the travel and hospitality industry. This is a global hospitality brand. They operate over 4,000 properties across the globe, hotel chain, if you will, with multiple brands in it. And total, we're talking about 43,000 associates and managers that were included in this program. One specific element here is that not all 43,000 associates are employees of the brand. They might be employed by the franchise model that is governed through all these properties. So we see some of the same challenges here, right? You don't have the ability to influence or mandate things as if you were the employer, but you have to influence differently. And the whole objective of this case study here, it was to enhance the guest experience reduce the turnover of the employees by increasing their satisfaction, and in turn, increasing the loyalty program enrollment. The challenge, again, franchise-based model that limits the company's capability to outreach their target associates. Most associates don't have a corporate email. So typical communication platforms or mechanisms don't even apply here. And you have a company that used to be heavily reliant on the general manager of these properties as the channel to drive messages. General managers have so many attributions on their daily tasks that being also the conveyor of these messages become extremely challenging. And the outcome was that the messenger was not coming through. So we needed a way to engage, educate, and motivate these associates despite the communication barriers that we encountered here. What we have done, we rolled out a gamified learning content strategy. So the intent was to give every employee a robust, micro-learn-oriented set of training items that would allow them to better understand how to talk about the loyalty program benefits, how to engage with customers, and how to keep them around. We also use gamified KPIs, which would provide immediate visibility to the associates themselves and their leaders. So now we're empowering the leaders of the hotel, general managers, to see data and act on that in the flow of work. And we leverage our recognition tools, kudos, badges, leaderboard, to reward and keep the staff engaged. At the end, what we see is a drastic increase in engagement, a lot of completion taking place, and these associates becoming empowered to have a meaningful conversation with customers, driving to a significant increase in the sales conversion and also loyalty program enrollment.
You know, the scale of this, Will, is wild, right? 43,000 associates, many of which aren't employees, 4,000 plus properties. So the question that pops into my mind right away is, how do you ensure consistent implementation, you know, despite the communication barriers that you mentioned?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think here, one of the things is that, again, we understood the challenge from the beginning. I think it goes back to what Sonia also mentioned. You need to know your problem before you tackle and come up with this strategy.
Right.
And the main problem was that there was no appropriate or efficient way to impact all of these associates at once. So our strategy here, if you don't have emails, you don't have your typical communication challenges, is a multi-layered communication strategy that will meet people where they are. So essentially, what we started doing beyond leveraging the general managers who are already involved, we also leveraged another series of communities. An example, we built what we call a hotel experience champion calls. This includes 2,600 associates out of the 43,000. And the intent is to empower these people to relay the message within the properties that they support. We also brought in the general managers themselves and conducted live calls with them so that they could appropriately know exactly what needs to be trickled down. So refining what needs to be communicated so that the important information gets all the way from the leadership of the hotel all the way through the front desk level. And last but not least, we had the franchise performance specialist. Think of them as a regional portfolio manager. For them, we created catered custom reports that provide all the data that you'll need to identify who is an outlier, whether for recognition or remediation purposes, and take action as needed.
Well, I have some other questions, but I want to make sure we can get through everything. So let's go on to the next one, then we can maybe come back from additional questions and also handle any questions that the audience wants to give us.
Sounds great. All right, our next example here. This is a financial organization, basically one of the three largest banks in the world. The challenge at hand here was specifically for one of their credit cards, which is co-branded with an airline company. What they have observed over years is that a lot of people enroll into the credit card, like credit cards for a specific airline to gather initial rewards. And typically there is no upfront cost, right? You get your first annuity for free, but upon renewal, that's when your annuity becomes due. And what they had seen is a huge attrition. So when the renewal time comes due, a lot of people would just leave the card and simply choose to not pay. The customer also knew that this happens in a specific time frame of the year. There's a given month when most people are renewing for their credit card. So essentially what they have chosen to do here, we created a gamified strategy where all of the associates have been enabled ahead of time on how to conduct a conversation. What are the selling points that they could have with the customers when a customer were to call and cancel their subscription? and in turn lead to a higher retention rate. So just enabling the right people at the right time, making sure that they have the right content and having challenges to ensure that they are absorbing that information, that they are performing upon it, that led to a 3% reduction in their churn rate. Even though 3% might sound like a small number, think of millions of credit cards being renewed with an annual fee. This led to a multiple comma revenue increase for the customer. So given how successful this was, we're now taking this pilot and basically replicating for other needs that they know have a specific time frame and a very clear challenge to tackle.
Could you dig into the 3% churn reduction in 3 weeks? Just blows my mind. Could you drill in a little bit about, I know you guys have an AI-powered knowledge tool integrated in. So how does that work to push such quick results?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, again, they know that most of these renewals will happen in a specific time frame. So what we did is we prepared everyone ahead of time, and we leveraged the AI-powered knowledge pools is what we call it. So essentially what we do is we create a pool of questions with multiple categories of learning, if you will. The system is going to provide randomly questions from the pool to every learner. And as every learner is responding, we're keeping track. For category A, is his learning doing well or poorly? Next time a question comes up, the system is going to be prone to provide more questions on the areas where each person is getting the most wrong in. So essentially, we're identifying knowledge gaps in the flow of work and servicing them more content to bridge each person's own knowledge gaps. And that is, again, on top of other mechanisms as well, such as challenges around specific learning KPIs and the completion of critical content to enable the associates to handle these conversations.
And then, so how did the bank identify and address the customer pain points in real time? That must have been challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, we leverage a combination of properties and what we call dynamic groups. So once you can identify an associate or a line of business that is subject to that type of call, there will be servicing those calls. We know exactly who the target audience is. And now Centrical can provide the content only to those agents, right? So it's possible that out of 100,000 agents that we have here, only 10,000 would be servicing those types of calls. So we're only providing them with the content that pertains for this initiative.
Great. Ready to move on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Got yet another one here.
All right, and team, I know I want to be conscious of time, and I know we want to keep some Q&A at a time, so I'll try to do this as quickly as possible. Our last case here is in the auto industry. Our partner is MSX. MSX is a company that provides content creation and consulting services for most auto manufacturers. And we have partnered with MSX as the digital delivery platform to support one of their customers. Specifically, we are supporting the enablement of all the service personnel in all dealerships in the US for their customer. We're talking about 1,200 dealerships across the country, spanning over 12,000 users. There were two primary objectives here. The first of which is upon joining the company, every employee needs to be certified or complete their onboarding within 30 days in their work. Upon being certified, they're now ready to go to production. So the primary objective was to increase certification rates, if possible, shorten the onboarding curve, the onboarding journey, and ensure that by leading to better trained personnel, we also impacted customer experience and customer satisfaction. So two main objectives here. What we have done, we created a very personalized solution. There is a dedicated game for onboarding/certification for every new employee with a lot of gamification elements. So essentially, you see your own KPIs that will show your progress through certification. The learning journey is catered for every employee based on their role and location. So you don't get any content that doesn't pertain to you. And as you complete your milestones throughout onboarding, you're also rewarded with badges and virtual coins. On top of that, as you certified, you move into your performance management game. So there, you're going to be able to see the 6 main components for your customer satisfaction index. And just to the example that Sonia mentioned for Boost, if I, as an associate, perform poorly, the system is immediately going to provide me a learning opportunity to bridge that knowledge or behavioral gap. So this holistic solution led to the improvements that you see here. We were able to shorten the onboarding curve, increase the overall certification rate, improve the overall employee satisfaction by giving them only the content they need in a very personalized manner. And also content is provided over time rather than being something that is overwhelming and given on day one in the work. And last but not least, this The customer operates under the philosophy that engage employees with an emotional experience equals customer experience. And what we see here is the outcome of that story, right? Better trained employees, better able to service their customers, leading to an increase in 9% of customer satisfaction.
So I want to leave a little time for questions if people want to weigh in here. While we wait for people to maybe ask some questions, let me focus in on this 30% growth in employee onboarding speed. That's pretty remarkable. Can you elaborate a little bit on the kind of the bite-sized learning approach
Absolutely.
that contributed to that?
Yeah, there has been, I would say, primarily three components that assisted with this. The first of which was the fact that the content, which used to be in its majority long pieces of learning items, right? Some of those were 1 hour long trainings. All of those have been transformed and modernized. So the customer really, in addition to creating a digital delivery experience, they also believed in the fact that they needed to adopt a micro-learning strategy. So revamping, modernizing their content was a critical component. Number two, delivering that content in a smarter way, only providing the right content to the right agents or to the right consultants at the right time, and ensuring that we do this in a gradual way as well, right? Beforehand, learners would be giving training that might not apply to their role, and they would also be giving all the content that apply for that entire month of work on day one. So from day one, you have an overwhelming experience, right? I already see that I have hundreds of items to complete, some of which might not even apply to me. So we modernize, shorten the content, ensure that only the right content is provided, and the content drips over time. So it creates, rather than a overwhelming experience, something that makes it engaging and that makes the person want to come back and learn more.
Great. So I do have one question here, going back to the hotel scenario, I think, and then we'll see if anybody has any in the final 4 minutes remaining. But going back to the hotel scenario, what specific recognition tools or features proved most effective in motivating that franchise-based hotel staff?
Absolutely. I would say it's a combination of features, but primarily recognition in the common sense was a key driver for success. How did we recognize? By a combination of elements. So first and foremost, extrinsic motivation through virtual coins. Every associate, every employee had the opportunity to earn plenty coins, which we tied to the company's existing reward solution. So coins that you earn in Centrical can be redeemed and converted into their One Rewards program, which allows the employees to redeem for hotel stays, upgrades, and other premium experiences. That proved to be extremely engaging for agents and really drove them to complete as much content as they could. On top of that, we made sure that the rewards were, so not only were they meaningful and aspirational, but also they are designed to be inclusive in general. So we made sure that not only the top performers were getting coins, but those that are improving are getting coins, or those that are attaining some specific objectives that might not necessarily tie to performance, but eventually lead us there, were also accounted for. So everyone had plenty of opportunity to earn and redeem those coins.
Great, thank you. We're going to have to leave it there. We've got just a couple of minutes left, and I do want to give Ivy time to say who is the winner of our raffle.
Thank you, Claude. Winning a free Excellence in Action program submission is Jen Johnson. Congratulations, Jen. We will be reaching out shortly with more information.
Any final words, Sonia or Will, before we sign off? I just want to, before you answer that, just thank you both for this. I think this is really insightful stuff about frontline learning that hopefully can help a lot of people. Any final words?
Well, thank you for inviting Arise to share our story. Thank you to Team Centrical, specifically Will being our account manager, who's helped us so much and brought new things to the table and have listened to our wacky ideas and have just been completely flexible and changing things, moving things to fit our model. So thank you for the invite, and thank you Team Centrical for what you guys do daily.
I just want to echo that. Thank you, Sonia. And thank you, Claude, as well, for having us today.
Thanks to everyone who took the time to join us today. We really appreciate you. Thanks once again to Centrical great company, great sponsor for our webinar. We'll give you a few seconds back in your day. I hope you have a good rest of the day and rest of the week. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you soon in another Brandon Hall Group webinar. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, thank you.